Now, what's my part in this? I'm from Metro Glass. We've been doing double glazing and insulated glazing for many years, and for high performance glass for 20 years. The reason I'm here is to talk about a couple of these options here. But as I say, I'm also here to just answer any questions, because sometimes things can get a bit confusing. One of the things I struggle with is that a lot of what we sell is invisible. So low E coatings you struggle to see. Some of them you will see with tints and reflective coatings and that. And so trying to figure out if that money's worth spending for the benefit becomes just that wee bit harder. But I can assure you that the low E's that are out there now perform very well. But not only that, you can get a number of options out of it depending on what your house needs. So I'm never going to stand here in front of people and say, hey, that's the best glass for your house. The first thing I've got to do is listen and figure out what you're after, and then what our glass can do to provide it. Now, we work closely with, we call them window fabricators, you can call them window companies. They're the people that actually make the frames, and then we come in and supply the glass. And again, they'll come to us and say, especially when you're getting into energy efficient homes, we want this particular performance out of your glass, and then we fit it out from there. Now, one of the interesting things with glass industry all over the world is we don't measure things in R value, we measure them in U value. So when I'm talking to you about some of the U values here, the lower the U value, the better insulation it is. And it's because whereas R value is how much resistance a building element has to stop the heat transfer, with U value, it's about the transfer. So the less transfer, the better in terms of insulative value. The nice thing to remember though is if you're ever wanting to transfer, it's just an easy inversion in terms of if I had a U value of 0.9, for example, you just divide the 1 by 0.9 and that gives you the R value. So you can always do an easy calculation if you are wanting to get to an R value, or vice versa. So what I'll start with is this product here is the most commonly used. It's a high performance low E coating. Its claim to fame is it's actually very hard for anyone to tell that it's not a clear on clear unit. So where it comes in is it's very good insulatively, so it has a U value of U 1.1, which is that is good. Like, to give you an idea, an old clear on clear unit used to give you U 0.27 for a similar unit. So you're getting about 60% increase in the insulative value using the low E coatings. Now, low E coatings have been out since the mid-70s. They first came out as hard coatings, and what they've been doing is developing them over time. And the new coatings now are a soft coat, and the soft coat always goes on one of those two sides. They never go on the outside, okay? The old hard coats did, but not only with the development, that also means, as I say, they've become a lot more efficient. But what this also does is it allows quite a bit of passive heat gain. So earlier on they were talking about how not so much heat is required in the house because on the frosty days there's still the sun out there, so you're getting the transfer of solar heat. So solar heat is this product here. If someone was coming up to me and saying, I want good insulative value, but I want passive heat gain, then this would be what I'd be steering them towards. On the opposite spectrum, this product is a solar control glass. Relatively clear. It does have a bit of a grey neutral hue to it, but what it's very good at is also at reflecting solar radiation back out rather than coming in. So again, listening to the customer, if they're wanting that, or if the fabricator is saying to us, hey, we need, they're doing calculation or modelling, they need this certain solar factor. There's two terms, the solar factor, or they call it solar coefficient, two terms, but effectively they help measure how much radiation is coming into the house. Now, this still has really good insulative value because with the coatings, with the sun or the solar, it has long wave heat, and so that's what this has been developed to also rebound out, but it's still rebounding in the internal heat. And I if you want to go to the full noise, to give you an idea, a clear-on-clear unit, I think, has a solar factor of around 87%. This one is 22%. So again, the lower the rating, the less heat, because what it's doing, it lets in 22% of the heat from the from the sun. So if you're wanting, if you had and we're doing one in Wanaka at the moment where there was two things they were after. It's big row of windows. They didn't want too much heat gain. They're going to have, the other thing that you can do on separate viewing planes is you can play around with the glass. So you can have certain glass on certain faces of the house, and then you can have other glass in the other areas. Now, what they wanted, two things. They actually wanted, like I say, a good insulator value, which again, this is a U1.1 low E, so it's right up there. And then the other thing that it has is that solar control. And then the other thing that it actually has is, the other thing that people look at is VLT, or the amount of light coming in. So this also has a lower light, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. And again, it's up to us to align people's needs with what we have, because the less light coming in, it's not quite as light. But what they were concerned about, they're right on a lakefront, they didn't want the glare. So this one here, that's the inside, that'll be like putting a pair of sunglasses on the house. But for that face of the house that they're talking about, it's ideal. But there is no sweet spot too, and that's where, you know, the design comes in, where you can say, hey, let's put the most solar control into the house, because that might be a good thing depending on what the house is after. So again, it's our job to listen, have options, and bring them to the table once we understand what people want. Then what we do is, this is the triple glazing. Now, triple glazing does offer more performance. I must say that some of the high performance double glazing gives almost the same insulative value as a triple glazed unit. Not quite, but close. However, if you use a double low E, you get phenomenal performance. So you get the ability having, because here's an interesting misconception sometimes. You'd think that if you put two low E coatings on there, you get double the performance. You get very, very little extra performance having two low E coatings in a double glazed unit. It's because part of the equation is actually the spacer that's between there. You've got to have a low E coating and a separate spacer. So that's why when you get into like, so this one here, which you can see is remarkably clear, because it's two of those low E XLs, there's two coats of low E in there, two spacers, and you can get in the region of U.7.6 with this unit. You can actually get down to a U.5, but it becomes a wee bit more of a challenge, because the other thing with any of these units is spacer bar becomes important. So the sweet spot for double glazing is actually around 14 to 16 mil spacer bar, argon filled with a thermal spacer. That gets you the best ratings in general. With to get a U.5 with triple glaze, you'd actually have to go to 18 mil on both sides, and that becomes quite a fat unit, if you like. In terms of, if I was doing triple glazing, I'd just pay a bit more for the double low E, because that's, if you're going for insulated value, because that's where the performance lies. Going a single low E with the triple glazing, it will still get you extra performance, but not like the double low E. And then the other thing that we've been throwing at us, which I think was fair call, is it's all very well having the data, but then what does that mean? And so what we've also done is sort of produced the document here, well, not sort of, we've produced the document here that does get more into the feel of it rather than the hard data. But the fact still remains, and that's one of the things I love about the Superhome movement, is it's not all about certificates and accolades. It's actually about building the best house that you can, and giving guidance for that. And that's why I like being involved with them, is giving people the best guidance to build the best house that they, you know, can either afford, and also they might think that's worth investing in, so we'll pay a wee bit extra. But it's not about they get involved with that, but it's not a rigid target. It's actually all about matching people up with the best house they can build. And that's what I like about it. And that's what guts me about, if I'm honest, about this, the possible H1 rollback. We've managed to get this to a good point, and then they're looking at, and I reckon they'll bring it back a wee bit. And I just think that's like almost getting to the finish line. then going back and letting other people win. It just makes no sense to me. But I won't go on my hobby horse there. So I've sort of, and I didn't want to make this too long-winded, so I've given you the concept of what we've got here. I don't disappear. I've been with Metro for 10 years. They've put up with me for that long. I am a bit of a geek, so I do enjoy what I'm doing here, believe it or not. My wife couldn't care less. But yeah, if you want to reach out, if you're at that stage of the design, if you're just wanting to talk things over, whether you're using our glass or not, I do not mind, because that's not actually the essence. Sure, I love selling our glass, but it's also about giving people good advice so they can make really good decisions.